Okay, and we are now on to match 4. We're currently 3-0, so we are doing pretty well so far. We get to be on the play, and we see a hand that's pretty good. Probe, Ad Nauseam, a couple of cantrips, and a pedal, so we've got a little bit of fast mana. We really want to find a couple of Dark Rituals, and we see our opponent is... yeah, we're playing the mirror again. Fortunately, they've mulled a 5, so they're going to be at a distinct disadvantage here, but they do have quite a disruptive hand. I'm just going to cycle that second probe. And we'll cast a Ponder. We're fine to leave the Ad Nauseam to be taken here. Our hand's pretty good and they're not going to be doing anything for a while, so we're going to try for a tutor and Past in Flames based kill. We'll leave the Ritual and LED on top. We're going to draw all of those cards next turn. Oh, great, and our opponent will get to probe Therapius. Yeah, I guess the other reason we're not too stressed about the Ad Nauseam going is we're going to be on quite a low life title by the time we would actually get to cast it. So I think we'd be able to cast it next turn off the Cabal Ritual. However, I don't think that's where we want to be. We'd need to... What would we need to do? We'd need to probe and fetch, so we'd be on a top of 12. We could have mana floating, but I don't think it's good. 13's not a lot of life when you don't have access to things like Chrome Moxes and Burning Wishes, of course. Okay, so our opponent still doesn't really have anything going on. Unfortunately, neither do we. What we will do, however, we're actually going to leave everything in hand. We don't want to play anything out here. The reason being, our opponent's going to duress us next turn. And because we have 2 of everything, with the exception of Pedal, and he won't want to take the Pedal, because we have multiples of everything, we can actually afford to lose any of these pieces. And we get lucky, and we naturally top deck a tutor, and that just means it's GG's. We're just going to be able to Past in Flames loop from here. And our opponent doesn't even wait for us to play us out in the hope that we misclick, he just scoops. I think we want to sideboard the same as we did last time. So we'll bring in a Petition, cut a Therapy, cut a Preordain and an Island, and we'll bring in 2 Flusters. And we're going to keep another pretty good hand, Probe Therapy for turn 1, or a Ponder or a Preordain, depending on what the hand looks like. Our opponent's going to lead on a Swamp and a Dark Ritual, which, because he's going into an Ad Nauseam with no mana floating, we are potentially okay. But he's ripped basically everything that he needs to get there. So the fact that he's already got Tendrils in hand it's quite significant for him here. So I think from where we are now, I'm not sure if we need to worry about it. I think maybe he should have therapied himself a Ponder there, because it nets him 1 mana. So the first Cabal Ritual that he casts is actually thresholded. Not necessarily something that's a super obvious line anyway, and not something that I think matters here. But yeah, it was a line. And yeah, he's got the Tendrils in hand. We saw that reveal, so I think we're just going to concede. So obviously we just got turn 1 killed by the mirror. We can't be too dirty about it. That's obviously what we would like to be able to do every time. So we'll just move to game 3. Okay, and we have a turn 1 Ad Nauseam here, and we can do a protected or an unprotected Ad Nauseam. So a protected Ad Nauseam would let us deal with, say, a surgical. However, going for unprotected means we can have 1 black and 1 blue floating. So we're going to have 9 mana, 7 after the tutor and 2 after casting Ad Nauseam. And you can see the hesitation there. So that's usually a good indicator that there's a surgical. So we definitely... So if he was going to cast a surgical, this is the time. He needs to do it with either tutor or Ad Nauseam on the stack. You'll find out why in a second. So waiting for me to draw my cards is probably a significantly worse way to do it, and I don't know if you want to go after the LED or the tutor. There's arguments to be made for any of the cards in the graveyard, or sorry, either the ritual, the LED, or the tutor. So the ritual's obviously what gives you enough mana to get started. So you can see I just ripped the Flusterstorm there. So that means that that surgical of his is now stuck in hand. It's not going to do anything. So far our Ad Nauseam isn't looking amazing. However, we've got some LEDs, we got mana, and we have crucially some Lotus Petals, given we're not actually finding any business. So we're now going to be able to run out all of these. If he tries to surgical for anything here, we're just going to fluster it. So we now have protection against it. And we'll probe. And we'll see it right there. So I guess the other thing for us here is if we do whiff, then what we can actually do is just take his hand apart. and buy ourselves lots of time, but it doesn't matter. We find tendrils, and we get there.